apparent indications of suicide. To determine the exact cause of her death, the police have asked the National Forensic Service to conduct an autopsy. Lee was found to be a victim in the case of a notorious rental scammer who owned over 1,100 multifamily housing units in western Seoul, but died last October without reimbursing the deposits to the tenants. Two members of the ruling People Power Party have been suspended by the party's ethics committee due to their controversial remarks. Kim Jae-won, a member of the Supreme Council, was suspended for 1 year after opposing the inclusion of the May 18th democratization movement in the Constitution. Meanwhile, Representative Tae Young-ho received a 3-month suspension for his comments about the April 3rd Jeju uprising and a leaked recording of a phone conversation with the senior presidential secretary. Shifting gears to local news, Busan City reported 863 new COVID-19 cases yesterday, and among confirmed patients, 5 remained in critical condition. Meanwhile, South Korea confirmed 20,574 new cases as the country eases most COVID-19 restrictions. Mayor Park Hyung-jun visited Tunisia this week to discuss ways of improving cooperation and to promote the World Expo 2030 bid. Busan City reported that Mayor Park visited Tunisia from the 8th to the 10th as a special envoy to President Yoon and met with high-ranking officials, including Prime Minister Najla Bouden. As part of his tour in Africa to promote Busan's bid for the World Expo 2030, Park delivered President Yoon's personal letter to Prime Minister Bouden and asked the Tunisian president to attend the Korea-Africa Summit scheduled to be held in Seoul next year. Bouden expressed the country's desire to support mid- to long-term cooperation between South Korea and other African countries. The number of foreign patients visiting Busan rose significantly last year. According to the Busan Economic Promotion Agency, the number of foreign patients visiting South Korea last year was 248,000, recovering up to 50% of pre-COVID-19 figures from 2019. In Busan, the number of foreign patients increased by 41% last year, marking a higher recovery level compared to other regions such as Seoul, Daegu, and Incheon. In international news, there are fears of overcrowding at the southern border of the United States as the controversial immigration policy Title 42 expires this week. Title 42 is a policy enforced during the pandemic by the Trump administration that immediately expels migrants from the country without granting them asylum hearings. A record high of more than 10,000 migrants were arrested in a 24-hour period, while thousands of migrants are left sleeping on the streets in makeshift campsites. Now for the local weather. It is currently 23 degrees Celsius in Busan under clear sunny skies. Mercury levels in the evening will average at 17 degrees Celsius. It's time to wrap up this hour's news. Thank you for joining. You're listening to BEFM 부산영어방송.
Your best choice. BEFM 부산영어방송.
Coming up next is Steve Hatherly Reboot. BEFM 부산영어방송.
What you're about to hear is amazing. That's because you're locked in to Busan's #1 English radio station. Whether you're at home, at work, or driving in your car, you will be exposed to radio excellence. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show because it starts right now.
August 1st, 1949. Random date, right? Well, not exactly. The first made-for-TV cartoon debuted on that day. It was Crusader Rabbit that was the first animated series produced specifically for television. The limited animation concept was test-marketed in 1948, while the initial episode aired on KNBH, that's now KNBC, in Los Angeles on, again, August 1st, 1949. Crusader Rabbit was the brainchild of Alex Anderson. It went on to be very successful, and the studio that created it also created Mighty Mouse in 1942. Of course, we've all had our favorite cartoons over the years, and today we talk about that some more. It's Thursday, May 11th, 2023. I'm Steve Hatherly. This is Steve Hatherly Reboot. Let's go.
Illusions of your fantasy, all dots and lines that speak and say, what we do is what you wish to do.
We are the color symphony. We do the things you wanna sing, frame by frame to the extreme.
Our friends are so unreasonable. They do the unpredictable. All dots and lines that speak and say, what we do is what you wish to do.
It's all an orchestra of strings, doing unbelievable things, frame by frame to the extreme. One by one, we're making it fun. We are the cartoon heroes. We are the ones who gonna last forever. We came out of our crazy mind. And what's that on our piece of paper? Take a Spider-Man, arachnophobia. Welcome to the Toontown Party. Take a Superman from Never Never Land. Welcome to the Toontown Party.
We learn to run at speed of light and to fall down from any height. It's true, but just remember that what we do is what you just can't do.
An opera of craziness, a bunch of dots that's chasing us, frame by frame to the extreme. One by one, we're making it fun. We are the cartoon heroes. We are the ones who gonna last forever. We came out of our crazy mind. And what's that on our piece of paper? Take a Spider-Man, arachnophobia. Welcome to the Toontown Party. Take a Superman from Never Never Land. Welcome to the Toontown Party.
You think we're so mysterious? Don't take us all too serious. Be original. Remember that what we do is what you just can't do.
What we do is what you just can't do. What we do is what you just can't do. What we do is what you just can't do. What we do is what you just can't do. We are the cartoon heroes. We are the ones who gonna last forever. We came out of our crazy mind. And what's that on our piece of paper? There's so much to come, and everyone will be welcome at the Toontown Party.
That was Aqua Cartoon Heroes to get us going today, and that song is about a group of cartoon characters, including Spider-Man and Superman, who are the cartoon heroes. The protagonist sings about how they do extraordinary things that regular people just can't do, like running at the speed of light and falling from any height. Their actions are all carefully planned and executed to entertain their audience, and the message is to not take them too seriously and to be inspired by their originality. We do love our cartoon heroes. Nice choice to get us going today. We are live in the studio in Busan on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome to the program, everyone. You're listening to us on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Jongguan, and Noksan areas. In Seoul on TBS EFM 101.3 and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7 FM. I'm your host, Steve Hatherly. How's your Thursday going so far? Another gorgeous day. Ooh, we're having some really nice weather here in Busan. It's been like 2-3 days in a row, and I'm loving it. It's so nice to be able to walk to work from the subway. I take the subway to work, but to walk from the subway to get to the station is about, I don't know, maybe a 7-minute walk if you're walking casually. And I'm walking slower these past 3 days because I just want to enjoy that warm sunshine before I get into our chilly studio here at BEFM. All right, so let's get into it. My expression that I learned this morning. Now, this is kind of an interesting one because in Korean, it's very straightforward and it's very literal. But in English, we have a little bit of a twist on the sentence or on the expression. And then from there's some different ways that we can use that. So let's start, as we always do, with our expression. This is again from the drama I'm watching these days, Divorce Attorney Shin. And in this scene, they're talking about food. Food is kind of a major part or a major theme in this drama. And in this scene, they are talking about food and what they want to eat and if anybody wants anything in particular. And this is what one of the characters says.
글쎄요, 저야 뭐든 다 잘 먹어서.
Not too difficult at all. He said, 글쎄, 저야 뭐든 다 잘 먹어서. All right, so we can chop off that first part. 글쎄 means like, I don't know. 저야 is 저는, same as 저는, meaning like me. And then let's focus on this part. In Korean, not too difficult at all. 뭐든 다 잘 먹어서. 뭐든 다 잘 먹어요. Literally translated means I can eat everything well. But when we switch that over to English, the translation on the screen was, I'm not a picky eater. I'm not a picky eater. And this expression can be used in English about food all the time. If your coworkers ask you, do you want this for lunch or do you want that for lunch? Do you want chicken or do you want pizza? And you say, I don't care. I'm not a picky eater. Or if you want to answer in Korean, you can say, 글쎄, 저는 뭐든 다 잘 먹어요. But picky is an interesting word in English because we can use it outside of just talking about food. Picky means highly selective. So let's give a couple of examples. Dating. Maybe you have a friend, or maybe it's you. Maybe you are super picky about who you will date and who you will not date. I can say to you, hey, I have a nice guy to introduce to you. And you can say, but what color are his eyes? And I would say, well, blue. You say, sorry, I don't really like blue eyes. And I can say, oh, you're super picky. So we can use it about people. What about work? We can use it about work, too. Hey, I know you're looking for a job these days. I have a job that you might be interested in. And you can ask me, well, what time does it start? And I can say, 7 a.m. And you can say, I don't know. I like to wake up around 8 or 9 a.m. I could say, oh my gosh, you're super picky. So picky is a very useful word in English that we can use about food or people or work or any situation where you are highly selective. But the expression in Korean, one more time, in this context was about food. And he was saying, I'm not a picky eater. 뭐든 다 잘 먹었어. Let's hear that clip one more time.
글쎄요, 저야 뭐든 다 잘 먹어서.
뭐든 다 잘 먹었어. 뭐든 다 잘 먹었어. So if your coworker says 치킨이나 피자이나 뭐 먹고 싶어요? You can say, 글쎄, 저는 뭐든 다 잘 먹어요. Good expressions to get us going today. All right, let's get to what's happening in the first hour of the program this afternoon. Coming up first, as we always do, hot off the press, we'll have some trendy music that has been newly released. I'll give you a little bit about the artist and a little bit about the track as well. After that, around 2:30 or so, Ryan will join me in the studio for today's Roll Film. Ryan will be here to get us caught up in all we need to know about the movie industry these days and this week. Ryan will stay with me for what's left of hour number 1. Then in hour number 2, for our fun fact of the day, I'm going to introduce to you someone that you probably already know. But do you know his name? Mel Blanc. Maybe not, right? It's not a household name, meaning it's not an overly recognizable name, but I bet you know his voices. They call him the man of 1,000 voices. Bugs Bunny. Do you know the character Bugs Bunny? Of course, everybody knows Bugs Bunny, right? Well, Mel Blanc was the voice of Bugs Bunny, but not just Bugs Bunny. So many different characters. So today I'm going to tell you about Mel Blanc, and I also have a clip from an interview that he did with David Letterman back in 1982 where he shows or puts on display some of the voices that he did. An absolute legend. Maybe the best voice actor that ever lived. After that, we'll get to when we were young. Well, last week we had a good time. We talked about cartoons from the 1980s that we so loved. And then we also had the theme music from those shows as well. Well, today we're going to do it again because we only did a handful of those cartoons last week and there were so many great ones. So we wanted to do another part today. So classic cartoons from the 1980s, part 2 today. And yes, if you're wondering, we do have the theme songs as well. After that, remember this. We'll take a trip down memory lane and visit MySpace. Did you have a MySpace page? I don't think I had a MySpace page. But when there was Facebook, actually around the same time that there was Facebook, and maybe even a little bit before, there was MySpace. And there was a time that MySpace was the #1 social media outlet in the world. But then suddenly, it wasn't. And I will tell you what happened with MySpace today. Yeah, I'm curious. I think it's still around these days, but it's nowhere near what it was. And it's also not exactly the same platform that it used to be either. We'll also have Today in Music, find out what happened in today's music history, and I'll check your messages throughout the program as well. All right, here's our question of the day today. Now, this one, you have to be a little bit creative. And we're going with cartoons. We have a cartoon theme in the second hour. We're going to talk about Mel Blanc. He was the man of 1,000 voices. He was the Bugs Bunny voice, the Looney Tunes voice. And then we're going to talk about classic cartoons from the 1980s. So here's my question today. Snow White. You know Snow White, right? Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Their names are Doc, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Bashful, and Sneezy. Here's my question for you. If you were the 8th dwarf, what would your name be and why? So you have to think about your personality or your characteristics or your mood, generally speaking, and then create a name for you. 백설공주와 7 난쟁이에서 여러분이 8번째 난쟁이라면 어떤 이름이며 그 이유는 무엇인가요? So put on your creative hat today and tell me what your name would be if you were one of the members of Snow White and the 8 dwarves. Be creative. Think about your answers. Text me pound or sharp 9050. That will cost you 100 won on your cellular phone. You can add us on Kakao Talk for free by searching BEFM or Busan영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. Simply search BEFM or Busan영어방송 in Korean. Same search. You can download the app onto your phone, listen to our programs, and leave us some comments after logging in. And don't forget, you can go to youtube.com and and search BEFM, or same search 부산영어방송 in Korean. You can find our live stream there. You can subscribe if it's not too much trouble. We'd ask you to subscribe to the channel. Then you can log in there and you can take part in the chat that happens on the right-hand side. Okie dokie, that's all the information you need for now. We'll take a break and come back with today's Hot Off the Press. Here is Hot Chip, Eleanor.
When you're standing there, can you really just ignore his prayers to be real? Nighted with a child that has lost its father, standing there by his side. And if you choose to remember me, hold me gently as you fall asleep. Even if you believe that there's nothing more, I feel heaven knocking at our door. When you're standing there, can you really just ignore the call of memory? To be back in those arms, walk again in the moment when you were still friends. If you choose to remember me, hold me gently as you fall asleep. Even if you believe that there's nothing more, I feel heaven knocking at our door. Evermore, 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 You're like Andre the Giant on his way to school. That kid gave him a ride before there was carpool. He needed to pick him up, showed him the way to go. I bet he learned a thing or two riding with Andre.
That was Hot Chip with Eleanor. We're back, and it's time for Hot Off the Press, where from Monday to Friday, we bring you two of the newest, hottest tracks from the world of music, and a lot of songs, of course, get released every single week, but we pick out a couple each day that we hope that you'll really enjoy. We'll start today with Steven Sanchez, and the track is called Only Girl. Platinum-certified Nashville-based singer and songwriter Steven Sanchez has shared his dreamy 60s-laced new single. Again, it's called Only Girl. The new single follows the double platinum track Until I Found You, which hit #1 on the Billboard Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart, as well as amassing over 1 billion combined global streams. That's a lot of streams. Of the track, he said, "Only Girl" is a dialogue and sentiment between rival characters that appear in the universe behind my new music. Sounds fun. After that, we'll hear Joy Oladokun. This song is called Somebody Like Me. Joy Oladokun is an American singer and songwriter, and her music spans the genres of folk, R&B, rock, and pop. Somebody Like Me is from her new album called Proof of Life. In an interview, she said this: "This album is evidence of how I live. I hope these are helpful anthems. I started making music because I wasn't hearing from the everyday human being on the radio. I hope this resonates with anybody who feels normal and needs a little musical boost to get through the day. I'm average. I do this job because I love what I do. I put so much care, craft, and intention into it. I'm making music to live to." Love that message. Now let's hear the tunes. 2 songs for Hot Off the Press today. Steven Sanchez, Only Girl, then Joy Oladokun, Somebody Like Me.
If love is an understatement, then honey, I'm a fool. And I tell you there's no replacement for what you do to me. So give all your love to me, and give all your love to me. Those other boys will let you down. No, I would never mess around. 1, 2, 3. Baby, won't you be my girl? Baby, won't you be my girl? Baby, won't you be my only girl? There's a dog in the tail I'm chasing. I'm pulling down the moon for us. Stumble towards the room, heart's racing. Just know that it's because of you. So give all your love to me, and give all your love to me. Those other boys will let you down. No, I would never mess around. 1, 2, 3. Baby, won't you be my girl? Baby, won't you be my girl? Baby, won't you be my only girl? Baby, won't you be my girl? And love is in my head in this world, lady. So baby, won't you be my only girl? I don't want nobody else, and I just want you to myself. So won't you please forever be my only girl, only girl? I don't want nobody else, no, I just want you to myself. So won't you please forever be my only girl, only girl? Baby, won't you be my girl? Baby, won't you be my girl? Baby, won't you be my only girl? Baby, won't you be my Even when I do my best, feels like it doesn't matter. Feels like it doesn't matter. I've watched even my best intentions turn into disaster. Everything goes backwards. I've searched the rubble of all my decisions, learned to say sorry for the things I do, though I don't want to. Some days it feels so hard to get better, and I've never been as honest as I want to be. When I need help through, can anybody say a prayer? Can anybody light a candle for somebody like me? Ooh, It's the least that God could do. Forgive him more than he could handle. To somebody like me. Ooh, somebody like me. Somebody like me. I've watched all my rivers run dry over and over, over and over. Now I know that's no way to get by. Can't keep on fixing the things I haven't broken. I've searched the rubble of all my decisions, learned to say sorry for the things I do, though I don't want to. Some days it feels so hard to get better, and I've never been as honest as I want to be. When I need help through, can anybody say a prayer? Can anybody light a candle for somebody like me? Ooh, it's the least that God could do. Forgive him more than he could handle. To somebody like me. Ooh, somebody like me. Somebody like me. Somebody like me ain't perfect. Somebody like me needs care. In the moment I'm heavy and hurting, can anybody meet me there? Somebody like me ain't perfect. Somebody like me needs care. In the moment I'm heavy and hurting, can anybody meet me there? Somebody like me ain't perfect. Somebody like me needs care. In the moment I'm heavy and hurting, can anybody meet me there? Somebody like me ain't perfect. Somebody like me needs care. In the moment I'm heavy and hurting, can anybody meet me there?
Those were our two tracks for Hot Off the Press today. Steven Sanchez, Only Girl, and then Joy Oladokun, Somebody Like Me. I'll remind you of our question of the day today. It's kind of a fun one, isn't it? You know Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Well, their names are Doc, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Bashful, and Sneezy. Achoo. If you were the eighth dwarf, what would your name be and why? 백설공주와 일곱 난쟁이에서 여러분이 여덟 번째 난쟁이라면 어떤 이름이며 그 이유는 무엇인가요? Let's check your answers so far. Hannah says, bossy. I would be bossy, LOL. Well, my husband would call me that because he thinks I'm always telling him what to do. Ha, 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 ha. To which I replied in the chat, well, then what would you call him, Hannah? And Hannah says, I would call him, procrastinator. He's always trying to do things at the last minute, or at least the things I ask him to do, hence the bossing. Okay, so we have, let's see, we have number 8 and number 9. Welcome to the group, Bossy and Procrastinator. I guess if I asked your husband to come up with a name, Hannah, he'd probably say, I'll do it later. Right? Thanks for the message. Jin Young says, how about this? If I have to give myself a name, I would choose Coffee, because I always have some coffee during my break moments, and I love coffee and snacks. Okay, so we've got Bossy, Procrastinator, and Coffee, or Snacky. Thank you for that message. And Hisuk says, I want to be Baby. For some reason, I want to be called Agia. No problem, Hisuk Nim. You are called Agia from now on in this group today. Neil Nim says, Mr. Picky. Oh, I like that you came back to our expression that we had before. Mr. Picky, because the eighth dwarf is so picky about food. Very good. Bossy, Procrastinator. Procrastinatey? Is that a word? I don't think that's a word. Procrastinator, Coffee or Snacky, Eggy, Picky. And what would my name be? Well, my wife's nickname for me is Pung Pungi, so I would be Farty. But that's not a great name. I don't want to be that. I want a different one. What would you name me? You can give me some suggestions as well, because I don't like my wife's suggestion for this one. Think about your answers and then share them with me. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Their names are Docky, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Bashful, and Sneezy. If you were number 8, what would your name be and why? 백설 공주와 일곱 난쟁이에서 여러분이 8번째 난쟁이라면 어떤 이름이며 그 이유는 무엇인가요? Share your answers with me through text, pound or sharp 9050. That will cost you 100 won for texting in. Add us on Kakao Talk for free and send in messages for free as well. Search BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can find us at any of the app stores. Download the app onto your phone. Listen to our programs. You can leave us some comments there after logging in. And once again, don't forget, visit our new live stream at youtube.com. Search BEFM. You can find the live button there. Please do subscribe to the channel, log in, and you can leave some comments there too. Thursday afternoon, and it's time for Roll Film. Ryan's in the studio. How are you this week, Ryan?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Enjoying the stretch of beautiful weather we're having here?
Of course.
So nice.
It's nice. I see they got the kayaks back out on the river.
Oh.
Yeah.
The kayaks on the river.
Yeah, in Suyang River, free kayaks. You show up, they let you kayak all around the river
No
in front
way.
of the cinema center.
It's
oh,
free.
Yeah.
You don't even have
Absolutely free. Just show up and grab a kayak.
Oh, that's fun. Have you done it before?
Oh, yeah. It's right behind my apartment, so I do it all summer.
Oh, wonderful. Ryan, on a more important note,
Oh, of course, yeah.
if you were the 8th dwarf, what would your name be and why?
Well, I would be the dwarf that was like back in the cabin making comics all day.
Okay.
So like I would say cartoony, but I feel like you don't choose your nickname yourself. The other dwarves would be the one calling me, so they just be like, we just came home from a day in the mines, and you're here drawing comics, lazy.
Lazy.
That's what they call me.
Lazy. Wait,
Only because they don't understand, comic making.
Doc, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Bashful, Sneak. Yeah, there is no lazy
No.
yet, so you've claimed that one. Lazy. Very good.
Not what I'd want to be called, but I feel like that's what I would
Well,
be
do you
called.
think I want to be called Farty?
Well, no, yeah.
We can't choose our paths sometimes, Ryan. All right, fun. Let's get to it. It is time for Roll Film. Ryan's here to get us caught up in all things we need to know about movie releases and film news. So let's begin with the box office, I assume.
Yep, let's go to number 1. It's a film we mentioned last week, was brand new, and it is number 1. It's called Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So now, I'd seen it last week. A lot more people have seen it. And it's very divisive. A lot of people are saying they think it's the best MCU movie since Endgame. But then a lot of people say it's very difficult for them to watch.
Why?
Because of the animal cruelty. So it's like cartoon animals, but it's about like a race that like experiments on animals.
Oh.
And so, a lot of people say it's very difficult for them to watch. James Gunn, he got his start in like really shocking horror movies. So like he's not afraid to show some shocking things.
James Gunn is the director of the movie.
Yep.
That's an interesting choice for a movie in 2023 where, PETA is a very well-known animal rights group. And even though it's animated, I can imagine they're probably not happy about that.
Well, the funny thing about that is we usually hear about PETA complaining about movies, but they actually love this one.
Oh, really?
And they said, thank you for showing how horrible it is to do animal experimentation and for doing it with CGI and not any real animals. Because that's the villain of the movie, and the whole thing is about overcoming that. So they were fans.
Interesting. You saw the movie?
I did.
You liked it?
It was very enjoyable. I loved it.
How would you compare it to the first 2 Guardians of the Galaxy
I
films?
think it's the best one. I
Really?
like I said, I cried a lot over that raccoon.
Yeah, he's a cute little guy, that's for sure. It's interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen it just yet. I'm probably going to wait for it to come out on VOD, but that's kind of exciting that people are saying, even though despite the controversy there, that it is the best of the series so far. Chris Pratt still rocking it?
Yep, still going.
Awesome. Number 2 in the box office.
That was number 1 last time. It's the Super Mario Brothers movie. So that means our number 1 and number 2 are both Chris Pratt movies.
Oh, interesting.
He's the lead in both of them. And now with the Guardians franchise ending, he's very lucky that this film's doing so well, because now they're talking about a whole Mario cinematic universe. I've heard rumors of a Donkey Kong movie, a Luigi's Mansion movie. a Bowser's Revenge movie, and then of course they want to make. Well, I mean, the Jack Black, of course, wants the Bowser's Revenge movie, and every actor wants their own character to get a spin-off. But there's probably gonna be a lot of them because the movie's doing very well.
Oh, that's really interesting. You mentioned last week that there was a Mario film that came out before that didn't do well at all. That was a live action film, but this one animated and doing super, super well. Chris Pratt is the voice of Mario.
Yep.
So Chris Pratt's at number 1 and number 2 in the box office.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Indeed he is.
Number 3 is a movie called Dream.
All right, we mentioned this last time. Sports movies are doing very well in Korea, and this is still in the top from last week. This is of course, about the soccer team. So I want to know, what is your favorite underdog sports movie? There's a lot of them.
I'm a big fan of American football movies.
Okay.
Was it Remember the Titans?
Okay.
Is that Denzel
Yep.
Washington? That was a fantastic film. Underdog, because it took place at a time when schools were racially separated, and then this football team was put together with black students and white students, and it was just those students came together through sport, and then friendship was found. So I think that's my favorite. What's yours?
Well, as a kid, it's probably always like the Mighty Ducks. That was
the hockey
big one back
Are you a
then,
big ice hockey fan?
I'm not a fan of sports at all, but put a narrative in there and I'll watch it.
Got it. Number 4 in the box office.
This is a new one. Crayon Shin-chan Mononoke Ninja Chimpuden. Which I'm not sure what the movie's called in Korean. Here, of course, the character of Crayon Shin-chan is known as Jang-gu.
Okay.
The little kid. It's really interesting seeing this movie. This is the 30th film in this franchise. Before that, there was shows and then comic books. But it's funny that this started off as like just a cute little boy and his family, like Dennis the Menace style hijinks, and now like 30 films in, there's ninjas. There's a race of ninja dynasties. They're keeping the Earth belly button safe, and there's superheroes. And,
you have to get creative at some point.
Yeah, you got to do something. And this character I find interesting because he's different in every country. It's a Japanese series. And then when it came to Korea, they're like, this is a little bit too adult, so they edited it down to make it for like very small children.
Okay.
And then when it went to America, they put it on an adult network and edited it up to add more swearing.
Depends on
to make
the
it for
market.
adults. So in one country, it's a kids show, and the other, it's an adult show.
Talking about underdog films, Hae-yoon Park got in touch and said Cool Runnings was a great underdog story, too. Yeah, John Candy film, right?
And bobsled team.
Yeah, that was fun. That was based on a true story, too,
Absolutely
right?
was, yeah.
Wrapping things up in the box office this week is John Wick.
Yep, finally, John Wick Chapter 4, 1 month in, and he's fighting his way back up those stairs still.
John Wick Chapter 4, still going up the stairs, still hanging on to the 5th spot in the box office. Excellent. All right, well, let's take a song break, Ryan, and when we come back, what are we going to be getting into today?
Let's talk about what's new in cinemas today.
New in theaters. The summertime is just around the corner. We're excited because the weather is getting good, and when the weather gets good, we always want to go into an air-conditioned theater for some reason or another. More coming up with Ryan in today's Roll Film. After this, this is the Cars You Might Think.
You might think I'm crazy, hang around with you. Maybe you think I'm lucky, that's something to do. But I think that you're wild, inside me is some child. You might think I'm foolish, or maybe it's untrue. You might think I'm crazy, all I want is you. You might think it's hysterical, but I know when you're weak. You think you're in the movies, everything's so deep. But I think that you're wild when you flash that fragile smile. You might think it's foolish what you put me through. think I'm crazy. All I want is you. And it was hard, so hard to take. There's no escape without a scream. But you kept it going till the sun fell down. You kept it going. Well, you might think I'm delirious the way I run you down. But somewhere, sometimes, when you're curious, I'll be back around. Oh, I think that you're wild, except before you need to be styled. You might think it's foolish, this chancy rendezvous. You might think I'm crazy. All I want is you. All I want is you. All I want is you.
That was the Cars, You Might Think, and we're back and continuing on with Ryan now in today's Roll Film. We got caught up in the box office info, and now new in cinemas this week.
Yeah, it's a quiet week for new releases. I think a lot of people are like, we got those 2 Chris Pratt movies in the number 1. We don't want to compete when they're still new.
He must be loving life right now, yeah?
And that's why he's getting all his roles. Like, he had the same thing back when the first Guardians and the Lego movie were in the same time. So he has that experience of holding up the top 2. So that's why he keeps going. But no one wants to compete. But we do have a new Korean movie out called Alongdi. That stands for Long Distance. It's about a long-distance relationship. And it's one of those screen life movies where the whole movie takes place on phone screens and computer screens. And, like, you only see what they see when they're, like, calling each other.
Yeah, those are kind of fun, actually. I kind of enjoy those films. Long distance relationship, interesting. Oh, totally on their computer or tablet screens or phone screens. So it's all based. It must be super dialogue heavy then.
I guess so. Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Searching. That was I love that
John
one.
Cho, right?
Yeah, that was an excellent movie. The sequel just came out not too long ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was just in theaters not too long ago here.
Oh, really, really, really?
Yep.
I love John Cho. I think he's really underrated in Hollywood. Okay, so it's a Screen Life film, Long D. So we can look for that in the theaters starting today.
Yep, starting today. And the other new release is a documentary. This is a smaller release, but it's called 문재인입니다. I Am Moon Jae-in. That's, of course, a documentary about the former president.
Oh, interesting.
So that's what the 2 new things we can look for. So we'll see next week if either of these 2 smaller films are able to break into the top 5.
Yeah, right. Let's talk about the strike update.
Yep.
That was huge news from Hollywood last week. Again, before we talk about the update, just in case anyone isn't aware of what that is, if you could tell us.
Yeah, basically the Writers Guild of America, basically people who write all the movies and TV shows from Hollywood, have said we're not doing anymore. We're going on strike because the contracts are not fair.
Yeah. And the studios responded by saying that we cannot promise or we will not guarantee that we will not use AI.
Yeah.
For writing purposes.
Yeah, and a lot of them have already started. Like as like, if you want to go on strike, we're going to start having AI write our scripts. Just there's a lot of other issues at play. That's just one of them. But a lot of writers are talking about how, like, they went to pick up their awards and they had to like ask for time off from the supermarket they work at because they couldn't afford, they couldn't afford to only write. So
what's your just off topic for 1 second? What's your opinion on Chat GPT without going, too far down a rabbit hole?
I think it's an interesting technology, but all of the writing that it uses is like stolen from other people. So it's like just breaking copyrights and stealing other people's work. So it'd be nice if you could have one you could train on your own work, but that's not what they're putting out there.
The thing that scares me about it is that, and we're already seeing it with the Writers Guild, is that, companies or corporations that don't want to pay human beings to do writing can now do this for free, can use this tool for free. And I kind of understand where they're coming from, because if they're working on a limited budget and they don't have money to spend there, then they can use that tool. It's available to them. But my point is that this is what I always say. Why are we trying to keep creating stuff that is taking jobs away from human beings, right? It doesn't make any sense to me.
But what's going on in Hollywood right now is the things that they're saying, like when you do something with ChatGPT, it's useless. Like you can't really, it's not good enough to make a movie out of. And also it's full of copyright strikes. So what they're doing is they're saying, we'll then hire a writer to fix it. And that writer's going to have to basically rewrite the whole thing, but they're only going to be paid a couple of bucks for
editing,
fixing, even though they're writing a full script.
Oh, goodness me.
So
Anyway.
that's what they're fighting against.
Right.
So
what's the update now then?
The update is now that picket lines have formed outside all the major studios all across the U.S., all the major film sets, and now, not only that, actors are also considering a strike because a lot of them noted that the streamers have been demanding they sign contracts that the studio can use their voice recordings to train AI to replace them for the rest of history.
Oh, you're kidding.
I don't know if like in the new Star Wars movies, like occasionally you'll see, like nowadays when Darth Vader comes, that's AI. They just had AI listen to the old recordings.
The old actor.
And James Earl Jones. They have permission for that. But now they're like, what if we just did that for everyone and we put it in their contracts we're allowed to, and then we could just have them in our movie anytime and we have permission for the rest of time.
So, okay, so let's put this in a context for me then. So, for example, BEFM, they just use AI to listen to old recordings of my voice.
They have lots of footage of your voice. Feed that in there.
And then all they have to do is put into AI whatever script topic they want for that day. And then they can use AI to accurately recreate my voice to read those scripts that AI also created.
And they absolutely can. There was a recent episode, Drew Carey has a show similar to this one in the U.S., and he, just for fun, one day did that and had an episode of show that was entirely made by AI, and some people couldn't tell the difference.
There's not going to be any need for humans anymore in the future. It's just going to be an entire planet of robots. Sorry to interrupt you. So the actors are considering striking now too. Wow.
Directors are thinking about striking. Everyone's thinking of joining this. So far, the first two big productions to shut down were Stranger Things and the new Blade movie.
Okay.
Soon after that, Severance and Daredevil Born Again shut down. Then there was the MTV Movie Awards that were supposed to happen this week. And then the hosts, Drew Barrymore, said, I'm not crossing the picket line to come. All the people who were winning awards said, we're not coming. So they just kind of cobbled it together with like stuff they'd already recorded and played it.
Wow.
That was basically canceled.
Wow.
And so a lot of stuff's being shut down. And I've actually been invited to join the picket line. I'm heading to New York soon, and
Really?
I know some writers. I was originally supposed to be in the audience of The Late Show. And then that, of course, is canceled. They're not filming it now. And some of the writers were like, hey, why don't you come join the picket line instead? You're a writer. So I'm going to go do it in a few weeks.
Very nice. Good luck to you on that. Elon Musk is in the movie news before we finish up. Why, I want to know.
Well, so he, of course, took over social media site and started firing all of the content moderation team. He thought that would save him money, but in order to prove that wrong, people have started uploading entire theatrical films onto the service, and there's no one to catch it. So first there was Avatar: The Way of Water that went up, which is already on, available at home. But then someone uploaded the Mario movie.
So these are pirated versions.
That's still in theaters.
Yeah.
Someone uploaded it on their social media account. It was watched by 9 million people before Twitter noticed and took it down.
Because Elon Musk got rid of his moderators whose job would have been to take that down immediately.
Yep. And of course, if anyone tries to email them to tell them, he also fired the team that answers the emails and set it up to reply to any email with the poop emoji. So he's about to get sued. He could owe hundreds of millions of dollars to the studio.
I feel so terrible right now because everything that I just said about AI and ChatGPT and how we need to be careful and protect human jobs. When you said that there's no moderators to control the content, my first immediate thought was, why don't they just train AI to do that? Oh no! I'm part of the problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, they need something to do the moderation because they're going to be in a lot of trouble if this keeps happening.
Oh my! One last piece of news. You can pick out which trailer or which film you want to talk about.
Sure. Well, I'll say there was a new trailer for the Meg 2, The Trench, which I thought was very interesting because years ago there was talk that James Wan was making a horror sequel to Aquaman called The Trench.
Okay.
It was going to be about the giant ancient sea monsters from the Aquaman movie and how they live in a trench in the deep sea and attack people. That film was canceled, and now a different horror series, The Meg, made The Meg 2, The Trench, and it seems to be the exact same plot.
Huh.
So I'm like, did they just take his script but change it to a different...
Maybe
different series? I don't know.
Maybe AI just created it.
Maybe.
Who knows? All right, Ryan. Very good. Always fun when you come into the studio. Always fun to talk about films. Thank you kindly, sir.
Of course.
Enjoy your week. We'll see you again next time.
See you then.
Please do stay with us for hour number 2. I'll leave you with this to finish the first today. It's Jean Moreau, Les Voyages.
Pour danser avec le plaisir, le soleil, les orages, pour échapper aux souvenirs, dangereux marécages, les voyages, les voyages, les voyages, les voyages. Je sais comment passer le temps, hasard et dépaysement. Je sais marcher légèrement, sable doré et coquillages, murmure en dormeur du feuillage. Le vent efface mon sillage. Pour danser avec le plaisir, le soleil, les orages, pour échapper aux souvenirs, dangereux marécages, les voyages, les voyages, les voyages, les voyages. Je veux des fruits mûrs, des fruits verts, des fleurs charnues, calices ouverts, des parfums fous, légers, pervers. La mer s'offre chaude, profonde, caressante, calme et féconde. Fais-moi douce petite.
Your Reach to the World. BEFM 부산 영어방송.
지그재그로 움직인대.
누가?
척추 라인에 맞춰서 움직인대.
누가?
누구긴 누가 엔모션 프로지. 척추를 지그재그로 틀어 꾹꾹 눌러주는 움직임. 누가의 시그니처 모션. 누가 베스트 엔모션 프로. 가까운 누가페에서 만나요. 의료기기 광고입니다.
9년 전 한국에서의 새로운 출발을 위해 부산을 처음 찾은 프랭크. 부산의 자연과 사람, 부산에서 누리는 모든 것을 사랑하는 그는 부산의 변함없는 한대에 늘 감탄합니다.
I think that Busan people are actually very, very kind and very welcoming. If I seemed a little lost, there was always someone that was there to ask me if I needed help. They're more seriously friendly than it's very serious. I very seriously want to help you.
부산의 한결같은 모습도 늘 감동을 주지만 이제는 부산의 미래를 꿈꾸며 2030년 부산의 새로운 도약을 기대합니다.
Busan people are very proud of their city. They want to share the city with everyone. If we get the World Expo, it'll really put Busan on a global map.
세계 박람회가 어울리는 도시, 미래를 향한 힘찬 도약. 부산에서 출발한 파도는 이미 세계를 향해 뻗어 나가고 있습니다. 2030 부산 세계 박람회. 부산이 시작하고 대한민국이 함께 이뤄갑니다. 이 캠페인은 지역과 함께하는 든든한 동반자 BNK 부산은행과 함께합니다.
엑스포, 세계를 놀라게 할 준비됐습니까? 세상에 없던 세상을 바꿀 당신이 처음 만나는 새로운 엑스포의 시작. 오늘의 세상을 바꾸고 내일의 상상을 펼쳐갈 세계를 열광시킬 단 하나의 엑스포. 대한민국 첫 번째 월드클래스 엑스포 2030 부산 세계 박람회. 새로운 엑스포를 원해? 부산에 유치해.
The time is now 3 o'clock.
You're listening to Steve Hatherly Reboot on BEFM 90.5. She Drives Me Crazy from the Fine Young Cannibals. And when Fine Young Cannibals first tried to record this, lead singer Roland Gift used his regular voice, and the song was She's My Baby. No one involved with the recording liked it. Everybody said, nah. But then they revamped the song and they revamped the lyrics, and then the falsetto voice was used for the new She Drives Me Crazy, and that changed everybody's opinion of the song. Interesting, huh? This bizarre vocal styling had quite an impact and made the song both a huge hit and inescapable earworm at that moment, as it is now impossible to think of the title without the lead singer's variation burrowing into your brain. Can you make your voice go like that? She tried. No, I can't. I won't even try. He's very good at that, huh? The rest of the chorus plays off of this styling, ending in some extended words as he sings, and I can't help myself. He uses that really unique voice. I don't know. I'm not an expert on the Fine Young Cannibals, so I don't know if he did that in every song that they sang or if it was specifically for this one. But regardless, he did a good job. We are into the second hour of Steve Hatherly Reboot on this Thursday afternoon. You're tuned in on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 in the Gijang, Jongguan, and Noksan areas. In Seoul on TBS EFM 101.3 and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7. Thank you so much for staying with us for hour number 2. Coming up in our second hour today, we really go young. We talk cartoons. And first, I'm going to introduce you to the man of 1,000 voices. Do you know his name, Mel Blanc? I know his name only because I'm familiar with him as a voice actor. He's no longer with us, by the way. He passed away a long time ago. But if you're familiar with the Looney Tunes, then I know that you're familiar with Mel Blanc, even though you may not know his name. I'll introduce him to you, then I have a clip. He did an interview on the David Letterman show way back in the 1980s, and I have a clip. I love listening to clips from shows from the 1970s or from the 1980s because it sounds different. And when you hear it on the radio, it's just got that kind of like listening to a record on a record player, that kind of sound to it. Anyway, I have a clip from an interview where he was with David Letterman, and he put some of his voices on display. So I've got that for you today. Then we'll move on to when we were young. Last week, we had a lot of fun introducing classic cartoons from the 1980s. I've got more for you today. In fact, the list is even longer today than it was last week. And of course, we have the theme songs for these cartoons as well. So that means we'll have some more fun today. After that, we'll do Remember This. We'll revisit MySpace. Did you have a MySpace page? I asked you that in the first hour. Everybody in Korea had a Cyworld page, right? And on Cyworld, you had your mini homepage. I never had one of that, the mini homepage. And I don't think I ever had a Cyworld account as well. But Cyworld kind of got its start. Sorry, not Cyworld. MySpace got its start right around the time that Facebook did as well. And there was a period of time when they lived successfully together. But then MySpace became very unsuccessful as quickly as it became successful. So I'll talk about that story today. We'll also have Today in Music, find out what happened in today's music history. And of course, I'll check your messages throughout hour number 2 as well. We were talking about ChatGPT with Ryan and the fact that the writers in America, they're on strike now. And even the actors are considering joining that strike, which I think it's a really kind of cool thing to do, because if if the studios are threatening that ChatGPT is going to take over the writing, well, they didn't threaten that it would. I guess what they said was, or at least what I understood from Ryan was, they won't promise or can't promise that they won't, which is kind of the equivalent of saying, maybe we will. So as a result, the writers are saying, okay, well, we're not going to write. And now even the actors are thinking of saying, well, we're not going to act. They're putting their foot down, so to speak. So I asked through chat, what do you think of this ChatGPT? And Cherish says, ChatGPT seems cool, but also scary. That's exactly how I feel about it. I mean, I think the tech is amazing. It's really quite incredible, ChatGPT. But I mean, at what cost, right? At what cost to us as human beings and to human employment are we willing to go to create something that's cool. I talked about on the show a couple of weeks ago that ChatGPT might not even be very good for the environment because of the amount of water. Do you remember a few weeks ago I talked about that? The amount of water that it quote unquote drinks, because these massive computers that need to train these models, they need water to cool them down, and that uses up a lot of fresh water anyway. I could go on about this for a very long time, and I think you're starting to know how I feel about ChatGPT in general, but you cannot disagree that the tech is kind of out of this world. All right, so here's our question of the day today. That is not our question. Here's our question of the day today. Much more lighthearted. In the spirit of cartoons, you know about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Their names are Doc, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Bashful, and Sneezy. What if you were number 8? What would your name be and why? 백설공주와 일곱 난쟁이에서 여러분이 8번째 난쟁이라면 어떤 이름이며 그 이유는 무엇인가요? Think about your answers and then share them with me. Text in pound or sharp 9050. That's on your cell phone for 101. You can also add us on Kakao Talk and send us a message for free. You can search BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us some comments after logging in. And also, don't forget, you can go to youtube.com, search BEFM. You can watch our live stream there. You can hit subscribe if you don't mind doing that. And after logging in, you can leave us some comments there as well. Maybe the most talented voice actor to ever walk this earth, or maybe at least walk Hollywood's streets. The man of 1,000 voices, Mel Blanc, was known as regarded as the most prolific actor to ever work in Hollywood with over 1,000 screen credits. He developed and performed nearly 400 distinct character voices with precision and a uniquely expressive vocal range. The legendary specialist from radio programs, television series, cartoon shorts, and movies was rarely seen by his audience, but his voice characterizations were famous around the world. And that's why I said to you before, when I say the name to you, Mel Blanc, you may not know who I'm talking about, but if you hear his voices, his characters, then I guarantee you'll recognize at least some of them. Blanc was under exclusive contract until 1960 to Warner Brothers and voiced virtually every major character in the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoon pantheon. His characters included Porky Pig, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Tweety Bird, Sylvester the Cat. Remember Sylvester the Cat? Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner, Yosemite Sam, Sam the Sheepdog, Taz the Tasmanian Devil, Speedy Gonzales, Marvin the Martian, Foghorn Leghorn. This list, as you can imagine, keeps going and going and going and going. After 1960, Blanc continued to work for Warner Brothers, but began to work for other companies once his exclusive contract ended. He worked for Hanna-Barbera, voicing characters that included Barney Rubble, Dino the Dinosaur, Cosmo Spacely, Secret Squirrel, Captain Caveman. You remember Captain Caveman? I remember him. Well, that was all Mel Blanc. So many voices came from that ultra-talented voice actor. He provided vocal efforts for Tom and Jerry in the mid-1960s, working with fellow Warner Brothers alum Chuck Jones at what would become MGM Animation. In the 1960s, Blanc originated and voiced Toucan Sam for the Kellogg's Fruit Loops commercials. Remember that? Follow your nose. He would later go on to originate and voice Tweaky for Buck Rogers and Heathcliff in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Heathcliff, if I remember correctly, was that giant red dog. Here is a clip from Mel Blanc speaking with David Letterman way back in 1982 on David Letterman's late night talk show.
Paul. Most of us grew up with the voices of my first guest, Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, Sylvester, Tweety Pie, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam, Barney Rubble are just a few of the cartoon voices that this man has immortalized. It's a pleasure to welcome Mr. Mel Blanc. Mel, welcome. How are you, sir?
What's up, David?
That's a great sweater you have there.
Oh, thank you very much. I like it, too.
Yeah. Now, that's not your actual voice, is it?
No, I have a very deep voice.
Now, you've done 5,000 voices? Is that possible?
No, I've worked in 5,000 different cartoons. And actually, I do about 400 different voices. And in each dialect, you can do many different voices.
Yeah, do you have any that, there must be some that are similar in the 400 that you've done?
No. They're not similar. I mean, you can recognize each one differently. Like in one picture I show in my college speeches, there's all Italian. Like Columbus discovers America along with Bugs Bunny. And Columbus, he talks it down here, you see. He talks in Italian, a dialect like it is. And the Bugs, he talks the world is around, I think. And various, you can do different voices and different dialects.
Yeah.
Mel Blanc passed away back in 1989, but he was so incredibly talented. And as you could hear from that short clip, his ability to manipulate his voice, 400 different distinguishable characters, each recognizable on their own, is a talent that may never be matched again. That is today's fun fact. We'll come back and we'll talk more cartoons after Carly Simon, It Keeps You Running. After, we'll go with this one, ZZ Top, Rough Boy. That was ZZ Top with Rough Boy, and now it's time for When We Were Young. We had a really good time last week when we introduced some cartoons, classic cartoons from the 1980s, and then listened to their theme songs as well. And because we had such a good time doing that last week, I thought, well, let's do it one more time. So we're back with part 2 of classic cartoons from the 1980s, and let's start today with the Jetsons.
Meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy. Daughter Judy. Jane, his wife.
Love it. The Jetsons was Hanna-Barbera's space-age counterpart to the Flintstones. The first season of the show was aired between 1962 and 1963. However, new episodes were aired between 1985 to 1987. Such a great opening. I used to watch that cartoon when I was a kid. But unlike the Flintstones, who lived in harmony with nature, the Jetsons lived in a highly automated electronic world. Mr. Jetson had the modern-day work life, 1 hour of work a day, twice a week. The city they lived in was high above the ground, and the Jetson family, like all of their middle-class counterparts, had a robotic maid named Rosie who took care of the household chores the Smart House thought were too trivial, like dusting. Oh, the Smart House refused to do it. Remember, this is a long time ago that they came up with these concepts. They saw the future before we did. They also had a dog. Do you remember the dog? The dog could speak his thoughts through a simulator, which I think they have those now. Of course, I don't know how many or how accurate those translators are, but anyway, they exist, I think. The Jetsons got us off the ground today. I already mentioned the Flintstones. Let's hear the song.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're the modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Let's ride with the family down the street through the courtesy of Fritz and Pete. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba do time, a dabba do time. We'll have a gay old time.
Wilma! Was that part of the opening? Did he scream that in the opening, or was that just sometimes? Oh, the Flintstones were great. The modern Stone Age family. That show was created by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera for ABC and very successfully aired on TV between the years 1960 and 1966. Till the arrival of The Simpsons several decades later, the Flintstones remained the most successful and popular television show in the United States. The premise of the show was set around the Stone Age, but reflected on the quality of family life in America in the 1960s. Fred had a short-tempered boss, a regular 9-to-5 job, the suburban Stone Age life, and a dinosaur that behaved like a dog. The show disrupted the TV trend of the time and has been on air since. Did you grow up with the Flintstones? Do you remember all of the characters' name? Fred's wife's name was Wilma, and then their neighbors were Barney Rubble. What was Barney's wife's name? She had short brown hair. I forget. Fred's daughter's name was Pebbles, and Barney's daughter's name was Bam Bam. And Dino was the dog, or the dinosaur dog. But I can't remember Fred or Barney's wife's name. If you know, please let me know. That's going to drive me crazy all day, if not. All right, let's move on. Oh, this is one of my favorites when I was a kid. He was a police officer of sorts, but he didn't have the same body that you and I do.
Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget. Go, Gadget, go. Go, Gadget, go.
the spring of 1983, an episode of Inspector Gadget premiered on TV, and after that, everything changed. Inspector Gadget was a bumbling, accident-prone, but yet enthusiastic crime fighter, equipped with a variety of badly constructed gadgets from Quirk's inventing laboratory. This subpar superhero lives at the address 555 Elm Street, along with his niece. Do you remember his niece's name? Penny. He fought against Dr. Claw and his evil organization, MAD. Because he is handy with tools, he likes to maintain his own equipment. In fact, he is sometimes the only one who knows how they work. Inspector Gadget was often mocked for his lack of intelligence and goofy antics, but endowed with gadgets created by his niece Penny and later adopted daughter that saved the day in the end. Inspector Gadget is very different from this next very feel-good, lovey-dovey cartoon.
Care Bears countdown. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Who's that coming from somewhere up in the sky? Moving fast and bright as a firefly. Just when you think that trouble's gonna pounce, who's gonna be there when it really counts? Do that Care Bears countdown and send a wish out.
Just makes you feel good, huh? The Care Bears lived in a faraway place up in the clouds called Carolot, which constitutes a part of the Kingdom of Caring. With the help of the cousins and their buddies, they go all around the world on missions in caring, whilst evil villains such as Professor Coldheart and Lord No Heart, they tried to thwart their plans. Tenderheart Bear, Cheer Bear, Grumpy Bear, Friend Bear. You remember them? Maybe I should have asked that question today. If you were one of the Care Bears, what would your Care Bear name be? Oh my goodness, I remember watching that one when I was a kid as well. All right, let's keep going. We have 2 more to go. This was not one that I watched when I was a kid, but people were requesting that we do this last week. You'll recognize it.
Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, robots in disguise. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers.
Transformers got its inspiration from a Japanese toy line, Micro Man. They could transform into humanoid robots, and in 1983, the Micro Change toy line that was introduced. The toy line introduced items that could be changed into robots, and in 1984, restrictions with the placement of promotional content in children's programming were eliminated, and as a result of this, the marketing vice president of Hasbro went to Marvel with an idea to create a new robot cartoon series, and they decided to name it Transformers. Last one, and I saved this one for last because this was my favorite, I think, when I was a kid. I feel like I've seen every episode of this show.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you, pretending you got a sliver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby-Doo, be ready for your act. Don't hold back.
Joe Ruby and Ken Spears created the show Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Again, it was for Hanna-Barbera Productions in 1969, and this show is probably the longest-running show as it is still produced. The show revolves around 4 teenagers and their talking Great Dane called Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, he always says, Shaggy, Bear. They move around in their mystery van. They had the greatest van ever, and of course, they solved mysteries involving supernatural creatures. The finale of an episode is always logical, even when the entire episode has a lighter air to it. I do miss my episodes of Scooby-Doo. All right, we'll take a break. I think we do have the Carly Simon song loaded up now, and when we come back, it'll be time for Remember This. We'll talk about MySpace. Here's Carly Simon. It Keeps You Running.
just ain't fair. Are you gonna worry for the rest of your life? Why you in such a hurry to be lonely one more night? I know what it means to hide your heart from a long time ago, oh darling. It keeps you running, oh it keeps you running. It keeps you running, oh it keeps you running. I know it does, darling. It keeps you running, oh it keeps you running. It keeps you running, oh it keeps you running. It keeps you running, oh it keeps you running. It keeps you running, oh it keeps you running.
That was Carly Simon, It Keeps You Running. We're back, and now it's time for Remember This. And I wonder if you remember MySpace. It launched way back in August of 2003. From technology to music to pop culture, MySpace was truly a global powerhouse for musicians, entertainers, and everyday users alike. Various up-and-comers found serious success from uploading their demos to MySpace. Let me give you some examples. The Arctic Monkeys, Owl City, Calvin Harris, Adele is on that list, and that list is very long. It also served as a springboard for other sites like YouTube, PhotoBucket, and more. Sure, MySpace is a shell of what it once was, but it's still a thing that was all the rage back in the day. Before MySpace, though, grew into a global sensation, it was just an idea in the minds of internet marketers at a company called eUniverse. Caught up in the sensation of Friendster, Brad Greenspan, Chris DeWolf, Josh Berman, Tom Anderson, and other programmers started developing their social networking site in the summer of 2003. Using their resources and technology, the group had a prototype of sorts in just under 2 weeks, and it was called MySpace. Well, tens of millions subscribed to eUniverse's e-newsletter. That was really good news for the company. As a result, Greenspan, DeWolf, German, Anderson, and others on MySpace were able to recruit boatloads of people for the new social media site. By 2005, jumping forward 2 years later, MySpace had become the largest social network on the planet. Likewise, it was the first social networking site to attain a global audience. News Corporation, they bought MySpace for more than $500 million in July 2005. And at that time, the site was enjoying close to 20 million monthly active users. 6 months later, MySpace was adding 200,000 new users a day. And as of January 2007, that number had risen to nearly 350,000 people a day. MySpace was the most popular social media site worldwide. They brought in around $1 million in revenue every day. MySpace also reached its peak valuation of $12 billion in 2007. They were unstoppable, but then they were. Early signs of imminent failure were coming for MySpace because concurrent with MySpace's rise to worldwide popularity was the development and growth of Facebook. Now, while originally only targeting college students, Facebook wasn't really much of a threat to MySpace in the very early going. They emerged in 2004 and slowly spread to colleges and universities throughout the United States for the remainder of the year. MySpace and Facebook, they continued their respective growth, with MySpace going on to its acquisition by News Corporation and Facebook slowly expanding beyond its initial audience of college college students. For a few years, it really didn't matter that Facebook and MySpace failed to agree. In global markets, MySpace was leading Facebook 2-1. Then, though, 2008 rolled around, and that's when everything changed. In early 2008, Facebook surpassed MySpace in terms of search traffic. The search traffic translated to something even more detrimental: total unique visitors. Facebook pulled more U.S. visitors and eventually overtook MySpace in numbers. That's when MySpace made a huge mistake. They panicked, perhaps, and they changed the site's look and feel by implementing a total design overhaul. This was a bad idea because anybody who uses social media, they know users hate redesigns. The site was hemorrhaging users, losing them like an avalanche. MySpace lost an estimated 10 million users between January and February of 2011. Additionally, unique monthly users fell from 100 million to 60 million a year. February 2011 was even more devastating than January, with users dropping to less than 38 million. No potential buyers were interested in submitting a bid. In the last-minute Specific Media Group and Justin Timberlake, of all people, they purchased the site for $35 million. But it shifted focus from social networking to music promotion, effectively ending its role as a social media site. Hard to believe that once the leading social media site in the world, making that much money a day, in direct competition with Facebook, and not only in direct competition with Facebook, beating Facebook quite soundly at that, ended up losing almost everything they had, and Justin Timberlake came to the rescue with Specific Media Group for $35 million. After that, like I said, they changed to more of a music promotion thing than a social media outlet, but that is the reason, or that's the story, that MySpace came to fail. We'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll have Today in Music. Here's Joe Cocker, You Don't or Don't You Love Me Anymore.
I'd see a smile when I walked in the door. Thought those arms of yours would be open wide. Thought where they were before. Why do you look at me like I'm some stranger tonight? Why do you pull away when you used to hold me so tight? Don't you love me anymore? Have you learned to live your life without me? Don't you love me anymore? When did the fire go out? Where did the feeling go? Did it slip away when I wasn't there? Well, now I've come home. I thought you'd want me back. I was so sure you'd ask me to stay. I thought you needed me still. Guess it didn't work out that way. Don't you love me anymore? Have you learned to live your life without me? Don't you love me anymore? Darling.
That was Joe Cocker, Don't You Love Me Anymore. Joe Cocker, one of the best voices I have ever heard. It's time now for Today in Music. Let's have a look at the music calendar and see what we can see. May 11th today, and we'll start in 1941. Eric Burdon was born. He was previously the lead vocalist in R&B rock band The Animals and funk band War, the leader of both of those groups. He is regarded as one of the British invasion's most distinctive singers with his deep, powerful blues rock voice. In 1970, the soundtrack for the movie Woodstock was released, featuring recordings from the festival. Those who were there realized it didn't sound nearly as good as they remembered it. In 1981, Bob Marley passed away. You know, Bob Marley was only 36 years old when he died. He died after a long battle with cancer. What a sad loss, and he was so young. Considered one of the pioneers of reggae, he became the first international reggae superstar after blending elements of rock and R&B into his sound, making it appealing to a wider audience. I would encourage you, I don't know if it's there anymore, but there used to be a full documentary on YouTube that was free to watch, and I think it was called Marley. If that's not it, maybe you can just search for Bob Marley free documentary. It used to be there, and if it's still there, please do go ahead and watch it. Obviously about Bob Marley's life, and it's just so interesting to learn about all of the little details of how he came to be who he was. In 1985, getting back on track, on May 11th, Madonna's Crazy for You, written for the movie Vision Quest, hit #1 in the United States. In 1996, the wonderfully titled Fairweather Johnson, the second album by Hootie and the Blowfish, debuted at #1 in America. And in 2007, we'll leave it with this today, the Mamas and the Papas, Otis Redding and Al Cooper, were all inducted into the Hollywood Rock Walk. Well done to the group. That is today's Today in Music. Let's hear just one song from the group that we talked about. This is Bob Marley, live in London from the year 1975, No Woman, No Cry.
as it was. Love would burning through the night. Then we would cook cornmeal porridge, of which I'll share with you. My fear is my only carriage, so I've got to push on through. But while I'm gone, I mean, everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. I say, everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. So woman, don't cry. Don't shed no tears. No woman but cry. I remember when we used to sit in the government yard in Trenchtown, and then Georgie would make the firelight as it was like wood burning through the night. Then we would cook cornmeal porridge, of which I'll share with you. My feet is my only carriage, so I've got to push on through. But while I'm gone, no woman no cry. No woman no cry. Oh, my little darling, say you don't shed no tears. No woman could cry. Hey, little darling, don't shed no tears. No woman could cry. Little sister, don't shed no tears. No woman could cry.
Bob Marley, live from London from 1975, No Woman, No Cry. I asked you today, if you were to join Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, what would your name be? And Hayon says, I would be Bubbly because I usually have the bubble guts. That's not good. Also, Chris is out there listening today. Good afternoon, sir. On the topic of Scooby-Doo, Scooby was the best, in Chris's opinion, and I, sir, agree with you. That will do it for Steve Hatherly Reboot for this Thursday afternoon. Thank you very much for being with me over the last couple of hours. Thanks for hanging out today. Thank you to Ryan for today's roll film, and thank you, as always, to you for your listenership and your participation. I've been your host, Steve Hatherly, and I'll wrap it up with this today. It's the B-52's Good Stuff. Enjoy that track, enjoy your day, and we'll reboot again tomorrow.
Some of that good stuff.
Well, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
Are you looking for it? Are you looking for it? You'll hear it from me.
Good stuff, baby.
Do you want it? Do you know how to get it? That good stuff, baby.
Good stuff.
I got sincerity that's bona fide and a heart so fine, it's certified. So let your good stuff rain down on me. Your dang good stuff that's true and tried.
Are you looking for it? Are you looking for it? You'll hear it from me.
Good stuff, baby.
Do you want it? Do you know how to get it? That good stuff, baby.
Good stuff.
What's the use of getting if you ain't sharing? My eyes are straining from all the staring. You've become my magnificent obsession. So how about joining my loving session?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
Are you ready for this?
I guess so.
Come on, baby.
Say whoa!
Take me down where the love honey flows. Kiss you nice, nibble your toes. Take me down where the good stuff grows. Love you nice, tickle your nose. Good stuff, give us some of that good stuff. Good stuff, give us some of that good stuff. Good stuff, give us some of that good stuff. Good stuff, give us some of that good stuff.
The Big Dipper sure ain't big enough.
Your Freaks of the World. BEFM 부산 영어방송.
지그재그로 움직인대.
누가?
척추 라인에 맞춰서 움직인대.
누가?
누구긴